Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to dive into the fascinating biological mystery behind phantom ear sounds and discover exactly why your brain absolutely hates a vacuum. Seriously, have you ever been sitting in a perfectly quiet room only to realize that, well, for you, it isn't quiet at all? If so, you're definitely not alone. Today, we're breaking down the science of tinnitus. We're going to uncover what your brain is actually doing when it hears a sound that literally isn't there, and look at the most effective, proven ways to take back control. Okay, let's dive into this.
Section 1. Decoding the phantom sound. So let's start by validating exactly what it is you might be hearing, because it's not always just a simple ringing. People experience this phenomenon in widely different ways. While a high-pitched ring is for sure the most commonly talked about symptom, you might actually experience it as a soft, intermittent buzzing, maybe a persistent humming, or even a sharp whistling. Some people even describe it as the constant, heavy sensation of a roaring ocean right inside their head. Basically, the symptoms are as unique as the individuals experiencing them. Now, what's truly fascinating is just how widespread this condition actually is. It is an incredibly common human experience. Get this, roughly 30% of the global population will hear this phantom sound at some point in their lives. That's a huge number. But for about 1 in 7 people, it kind of crosses the line from a temporary annoyance to a persistent, everyday companion. If you happen to be in that 1 in 7 group, it can feel really isolating, but the numbers show you are part of a massive global community. Before we look at the causes, we need to categorize it. For the vast majority of people, this is known as subjective tinnitus. That simply means the sound originates entirely inside your head and only you can hear it, no matter how loud it seems to you. There is a secondary category called objective tinnitus, which is remarkably rare. In those wild cases, a doctor can actually hear the sound using a stethoscope or by listening super close to your ear. But today, we're focusing on the much more common subjective experience.
Section 2. How the brain compensates.
So if the room is quiet, where is the sound actually coming from? Let's take a look under the hood. Deep inside your inner ear is the snail-shaped part called the cochlea, and it's lined with microscopic hair cells. These tiny hairs are totally responsible for transforming sound waves into electrical signals that travel straight to your brain. But when these hair cells get damaged, they stop sending accurate signals. And your brain? Well, it absolutely hates a vacuum. It attempts to adapt to this missing input by overcompensating for the reduced signals. The result? It essentially creates its own perceived sound. Tinnitus is literally your brain trying to fill in the blanks. So what breaks these tiny hair cells in the first place? A very common culprit is a lifetime of exposure to loud noises. Think rock concerts, heavy power tools, or, cranking your headphones way too loud. But it can also be triggered by a sudden impact noise, injuries to the head or neck, a reaction to certain medications, or simply the natural aging process. Sometimes, frustratingly enough, it can develop for no apparent reason at all.
Section 3. The hearing loss connection. Because tinnitus is tied directly to inner ear damage, it's intimately connected to another condition. An absolutely staggering 90% of people who suffer from tinnitus also experience some degree of hearing loss. These two conditions very frequently coexist. Now, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding the relationship between the two. A lot of people mistakenly believe the phantom ringing is just so loud that it's drowning out the world around them. They think the tinnitus itself is causing their trouble hearing. But in reality, it's those damaged hair cells in the inner ear that are causing both symptoms independently. The hair cell damage causes the hearing loss, and as we just learned, the brain's reaction to that exact same damage causes the tinnitus.
Section 4. Breaking the vicious cycle.
Tinnitus isn't just a physical mystery. It actually sparks a really powerful emotional loop. When a new, constant sound appears in your head, the emotion center of your brain, the limbic system, often interprets it as a threat or a warning signal. This kicks off a vicious cycle. Your stress and anxiety increase, and because you're stressed, your brain focuses on the sound even more, making the tinnitus seem louder and way more bothersome. This heightened state of alert severely disrupts your sleep, which leaves you exhausted and even more susceptible to stress the very next day. The cycle just feeds itself. I want to pause right here because this is so incredibly important. If you feel frustrated, angry, or just totally overwhelmed by this ringing, that is entirely normal. As the source material points out, it is an understandable and human reaction. Your brain is just doing what it evolved to do, warning you about something unusual. Acknowledging that this emotional response is perfectly natural is actually the very first step toward calming that limbic system down.
Section 5.
tuning out the tinnitus.
While there isn't a magical overnight cure, the goal of treatment is highly effective. We basically need to move your brain's attention. Think of untreated tinnitus like a solitary violin playing in a totally empty room. Without any other sounds to compete with, that single violin effortlessly demands 100% of your attention. You really can't help but listen to it because it's the only thing happening in the space.
But what if you use sound therapy to introduce a full classical orchestra into that exact same room? We're talking cellos, trumpets, flutes, the whole shebang. The environment completely changes. You might still be able to pick out that solitary violin if you really focus on it, but it beautifully blends in. It becomes part of a larger soundscape and no longer stands out or demands your attention. This is the ultimate, incredibly hopeful goal of sound therapy. Audiologists can actually help you build this treatment orchestra using a few different tools. Hearing aids are incredibly common and effective here because they simply amplify ambient background noise. By bringing more of the world's natural sound into your ear, the contrast between the tinnitus and your environment is heavily reduced. You can also use combination devices that emit specific relief sounds, or even something as simple and encouraging as engaging with an audiobook. It provides just the right mix of comforting background sound and brain stimulation to gently pull your attention away. Section 6. Taking back control. Now, beyond specific devices and sound therapies, mastering tinnitus also involves your daily environment. Since we know that stress amplifies the perception of the sound, your lifestyle choices play a massive role in finding relief. Evidence suggests that adopting mindfulness practices like yoga and meditation can actively calm down that limbic system. Eating a healthy diet, getting regular exercise, and deliberately shifting your focus away from negative feelings can significantly dial back the severity of the sound. And, of course, always wear hearing protection in loud environments to prevent any further hair cell damage. Perhaps most importantly, you have to fiercely protect your sleep. Remember that vicious cycle of fatigue and anxiety we looked at a minute ago? Well, you short-circuit that loop by maintaining impeccable sleep hygiene. Try to keep a highly regular bedtime routine. Avoid big meals, alcohol, heavy exercise, or caffeine right before hitting the pillow. You can also use a bedside sound generator to play steady, soothing background noise like white noise or falling rain to mask the tinnitus just enough to let you drift off peacefully. We're going to end with this question. Does your tinnitus make it difficult to enjoy life, to concentrate, or to fall asleep? If you find yourself answering yes to this, let today be the day you take that first step and contact a hearing care professional to build your own personalized treatment orchestra. But it leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought. If the human brain is powerful enough to invent a sound out of total silence, just imagine how powerful it is when we teach it how to truly listen. The power to master the phantom sound is quite literally all in your head. Thanks for exploring this with us.